Hello YouTube, Intuitive Edge here. Today I want to talk about something that's been percolating in my head for a little while, and I want to try to put this into something that is concise and understandable. So my topic today is how to discern truth. I've been thinking about this in light of what I have come to understand through natural law and the process of how the universe operates. And I've come to think, and I want to kind of play this out with you a little bit here. I have come to think that ground zero for truth and the discernment of truth, ground zero boils down to information. What do we do with information? I wrote this kind of a little crude thing here on my notebook. So pardon this very elementary notebook here. But hopefully you can see this. So what I wrote here is ground zero information. And so what we have going this way is control, and what we have going this direction is release. And what I did is I wrote out, and I'm going to write it out here so you can see it. I began asking questions about information. Now, if information is ground zero, when you have information, it leads to knowledge. What happens when you have knowledge? Where does that lead? Well, knowledge leads to truth. Okay, truth. Where does that lead when you have truth? Truth, when you have truth, leads to freedom. And when you have freedom, you are not enslaved. Not enslaved, and you have life. Okay. So on the other side, when information begins to be controlled, so this is the first, I have controlled output. When you're heading under control, the information is vital to controlling, to control the output. So this is like the media. Media is controlled output. They guard and have the information, and they control the output. Okay. So they control the narrative. All right. So what happens when news media controls the output? Well, they control the narrative. So we'll put narrative in here. Okay. So what happens when the media controls the output, controls the narrative? Well, then only singular voices are heard. So basically, we're getting one or fewer points of view. Okay. So what happens when we only have a few singular voices heard because it's controlled media narrative? What do we have as a result of that? We have loss of freedom. Loss of freedom. Okay, what happens when you lose your freedom? Well, you become enslaved. And what does enslavement lead to? It can lead to death on the other side. Okay, so that's just a very kind of rudimentary, but I thought if I spelled it out on a timeline, we could kind of have a visual of what I'm talking about and why information is vital and why information is key and why it is so important to the controllers, I guess if you want to say, to control information. Now, controlling information is nothing new. It has been done throughout our history. And oftentimes information was controlled through religious institutions, through larger corporate institutions. churches, way back when, the divine hand, these people controlled what information got out. And it wasn't helped any when people, peasants and whatnot, were illiterate and couldn't read. They couldn't have access to information in order to help them get on the path to knowledge, truth, freedom, and the opposite of enslavement, which is life and life abundant. So although this is the 21st century and we are not in the dark ages, so to speak, this is very much still a battle that is raging in our time, and that is the battle and control of information. How does information get controlled? Well, information is controlled by people hoarding it, people guarding it, people hiding the truth. So basically occulting the truth. Now, the word occult does not mean evil. It means hidden. It literally means hidden. What has been hidden? Knowledge. There's a passage in the Bible, in Scripture, that says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. And how do they get knowledge? They get knowledge from information. And if information is hidden from them because it's been occulted and it has been deemed, unworthy to be disseminated to mere peasants or to the goyim or whatever, then if that information gets hoarded by some who come to understand that knowledge and understand it very well. The problem with knowledge that's been occulted is that certain people know the truth of the knowledge that's hidden, and it's been deliberately kept under wraps from the general population, from the rest of us. Things like understanding human nature, understanding how human beings operate. Now, we probably don't think, I'm talking about the general population here, we don't generally think of ourselves as, we need to understand how we operate and understand ourselves. We kind of take for granted that we understand ourselves enough to live our lives, and that's all we need to know. However, for those that have occulted information that has been hidden from the general population for many, many centuries, is that they understand how human beings operate to a depth that most people don't understand, have no knowledge of, and have no knowledge that they need to know about. They don't know what they don't know, and they don't know that they need to know it. So what I am trying to say is that the people who have occult knowledge, they know enough to know how human beings operate, and therefore they know how to trigger people and control people. If I was to say the word mind control to you, what would you think that means? You would probably say that it means somebody who's maybe in a zoned out state, like in a trance, and they're, maybe through hypnosis or whatever, they're being manipulated and controlled to do something that they otherwise wouldn't do. Okay, that may be true. That's one form of mind control. But what if mind control is something much more simple and much more easily slipped under the radar than that? So back to my handy dandy notebook here. I wrote down, probably can't see this too well, but I wrote down mind control, exploiting deepest fears. So what deep fears do human beings have? Well, many people fear death, the big unknown, the big scary event that nobody wants to think about, right? What else do people fear? How about abandonment? These are deep, primal fears. You might fear, being attacked by a lion or some wild animal and being killed, again, death, but these are primal instinctual fears. These fears tend to make people feel guarded and in a fight or flight and wanting to self-protect, right? We might fear ridicule. Any of these draw us into survival, fight or flight mechanisms. So when people are in fear, and that's what these lead to, is fear. And when people are in fear, they react. They react. It's that fight or flight. It's that reaction. So when someone is in a state of fear, panic, reaction, they do not come generally from a place of logic. Let's see if I can write that on there. They don't come from a place of logic, and they are in a place of what we call emotion-based thinking. Sorry for my messy writing. Okay, emotion-based thinking. Okay. When people think from their emotions without logic, they are much more easily controlled. And if we go back and look at this again, our ground zero, to control the narrative, loss of freedom, enslavement. That's the goal when you want to control someone, is you want to bring them under your control and enslave them. Okay, so back to this. Mind control is, one form of it is exploit deepest fears to get somebody living from fear, which is emotion-based thinking. That's how you can tell someone is in fear, is when they're completely emotion-based and no logic, okay? When they're in that position, that is a really good place for them to be under mind control. So the next thing I want to look at with regard to mind control is divide and conquer. Again, we're back to our little timeline here with information being ground zero. So when information, which leads to truth, gets outside of the controlled flow of information, what happens? That's where divide and conquer tactic comes into play. So if you remember back on this other sheet, let's see if I can get back to it, where we have our ground zero information, and kind of the gatekeeper right out of the bat here is controlled output, which is the media. So if we think of this divide and conquer strategy, if information, instead of going this direction, starts to go this direction toward truth and freedom, what is the job of the gatekeeper, the media? What is their tactic of divide and conquer? So if I were to ask you, what is the very first thing that someone would do to divide and conquer? Say there's a group that they've got some truth, and they're here and they're running away with this truth, and they're following it, and they're following and finding even more truth and finding even more stuff, and it's getting away from the people that are working to control, the gatekeepers of information. Okay, it's getting away from them. What is the first thing that they're going to do? If you were say you were one of them and you're wanting to control this information that's getting out, how do you head that off at the pass? Number one, you discredit. You're going to discredit the people that are doing this. And the way that that's done is to malign their character. You can label them as dissidents or conspiracy theorists. So we're going to label others. That's what happens. So if that doesn't work, if the discrediting doesn't work, And this group over here is getting even more truth. They're getting knowledge, wisdom, all of that, and it's leading to freedom. Well, this over here, wanting to control, another divide and conquer tactic that they're going to use is, number 2, they're going to infiltrate. Sorry, I can't write. Infiltrate. Infiltrate. What is infiltrate? Well, they may send some people into this group who pretend like they're seeking truth and wisdom, and they're joining the movement, right? They're going to send someone in. You're going to be like a spy, and you're going to go in. You're going to infiltrate them. You're going to join their movement. And so, okay, so what's the point of that? Well, the point of that is to gain trust. Gain their trust. You want these people that are seeking after all this stuff over here to come back, to trust you, to come back, gain their trust, and to maybe slip in to keep them from going this direction, to keep them from seeking the truth. You want to bring them back, but you don't want to tip them off too much that you're working for the dark side or for this side, but you're wanting to get in there and gain their trust back, okay? So what happens when you gain their trust? What happens? Well, we gain a following. Suddenly, if someone has successfully infiltrated this group over here, they're going to gain a following. They're going to have people trust them. They're going to have people that wanted to know this truth. They're seeing, oh, this person is strong, and I trust them, and they're claiming that they have knowledge and that they have truth, and I like this person. I'm going to follow them. So they gain a following. Well, what's the point of gaining a following? The point of gaining a following is to take members. Take members with you. So the goal is to take people out of this movement, stop them from seeking, stop them from looking for the truth, take them with you, and then you'll do a bait and switch on them. That's going to happen toward the end. So the next step, once you've taken members and people are trusting you, you've gained their trust, number 5 is the bait and switch. All of a sudden, this person over here is going to say, oh, but look, this over here, this isn't right. And they're going to throw in their own truth and their own stuff. And these members who are thinking that they're following the truth and they're following the path of wisdom and light, because they trust this person, they're going to take the bait and switch, and they're going to go back down this direction, back into divide and conquer, back down into enslavement. That's how it works. So I've laid out 2 main themes of mind control. And one is to exploit people's deepest fears, to keep them in an emotional state of mind to where they do not use logic in their thinking, to where they are emotion-based thinking, which keeps people feeling the primal need for survival and continual fear. And the other is to divide and conquer. If tactics that don't work, this is a little more aggressive, is to try the divide and conquer. Another tactic with the divide and conquer is you want to keep people trusting you. You want to keep people on your side. You want to keep people in your camp, so to speak, okay? So how are you going to do that? How are you going to keep that alive? Well, a good way to do that is to continue to exploit fear. Okay, so imagine if this person on the dark side, say it just for explanation's sake here, they've gone in, they've infiltrated a group, right? and they've taken followers. They've taken people to their side. They've led them astray from seeking the truth, and they've given them little pieces of truth mixed with a lot of disinfo, and they're pulling people to follow them, right? Okay. So what is a way that they're going to keep people following them? Well, one way is to exploit another a weakness in human character. It's not really a weakness, but it can be used against us, and that is our compassion. Okay. Human beings have tremendous sense of compassion for others. And so say this rogue operative person suddenly says, "Oh my gosh, I'm being attacked." And so he tells all of his followers, "Look, I'm being investigated by so-and-so. I'm being attacked. This is war. I'm being, So what does that do? It preys on people's compassion. Oh my gosh, this person who, go back to my page here, this person who I trust, who's gained my trust, this person that I now like and trust, is saying that they're being attacked. They're being attacked. Someone's coming after them. So what does that do? It gets people riled up, gets people in that fear mode, that continual drip, drip, drip of fear, that someone that they care about is being attacked. And therefore, they're going to get, this is the hope anyway, right? Is that they're going to get all riled up and supportive of this person who claims they're being attacked, and they're going to continue not only to support that person, but they may want to join a movement to defend them. They're going to get even more entrenched and even more involved in the divide and conquer tactic that's actually being used against them. See, they don't see that. They don't see that. The people that are being preyed upon and plotted against, they don't see what's really happening. They don't notice that this person that I trust, that they've trusted, is using this "I'm being attacked" to gain their sympathy and to get people to feel sorry for them, so that they're continued in that state of fear that makes them easily controlled. Okay, this is all about control. It's all about control. First of all, if somebody is doing good work, they should know that they'll probably come under attack at some level from somebody who doesn't like what they're doing or whatever. But they don't need to get that level of sympathy from people who have no firsthand knowledge and can't really do anything to help them. All that's being done for is to garner sympathy and to prey on people's kindness and compassion. So I wanted to bring that up to shed some light and help people to understand where this dividing line is when it comes to control and the level of control that people are under. It starts with the control of information. We've seen this a lot, at least I have, and I'm sure you have too. If you've been following the Q movement, you've seen a lot of this playing out with different groups, different people. Everybody's wanting a piece of the information and trying to control the flow of information. And we've seen some that look to be a little dubious, and it looks to be like they're being outed. We've had other people come on the scene that say, "Oh, I have all this knowledge here. Just ask me anything you want, and I'll tell you what I know, and come to me for your wisdom and knowledge." See, there's that gain your trust happening. That's what that is. I want to gain your trust. Just remember, the goal is to control the information and to pull as many people as they can back onto a more manageable timeline, which involves controlling the masses back into a controlled narrative, a singular voice, which will lead to loss of freedom. So I said all that because there's a lot that's going on right now, especially in YouTube land and Twitter and elsewhere, that is designed to control information. Look at people who are being heavily discredited, okay? And be wary of people who are jumping in and trying to win over everybody's trust. And be mindful, too, of learning to use logic and to stay away from emotion-based thinking. Now, I will be the first to say emotions are extremely vital and important to human development and human psyche. They're extremely important to have our emotions, because those are our compass that tell us what we need to change and what's going on in our world. Is how we feel. It's how we feel about things. It's very important. But that is also very easily exploited, and very easily exploited by other people that use that against you to keep people in fear and to keep them in emotion-based thinking so that they can be controlled more easily. So just know right now there's a lot of disinfo out there, but all is not lost. As we continue to seek the truth, have the truth be your highest goal and your highest aim, and seek to learn and understand for yourself and not be persuaded because of fear. And if you feel yourself reacting because you're afraid of something happening, know that you might be being played on. So, all right. I'm going to leave that here. I know this was a lot, and I appreciate you bearing with me, my rudimentary notebook. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got something out of it. And I appreciate all my subscribers. I'm almost at 300 subscribers already. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for stopping by my channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.